Hey guys, Azralynn here with a fully commentated Let's Play of Home as selected by one of my awesome patrons, Monkey Fusion. Enjoy! All I remembered at that point was finding myself alone. Oh my head! Where was I? It was so dark. There was something by my feet. A flashlight. Ooh, we got a flashlight. Okay. Not sure what the controls are. Space. Okay, space to open stuff. That house. Where was I? Is this a body? There was a body lying on the floor. Who was it? Oh shit. Poor kitty cat. I noticed that I limped as I moved down the stairs. How did I hurt my leg, I wondered. All I could really recall was coming home and seeing Rachel. I was upset. She looked afraid. I shook my head and tried to clear it. I knew I should head downstairs, try to find a way out. Alright, downstairs is here. Okay, we're downstairs now. I look like hell. My clothes were dirty and torn, and there was mud caked all over my shoes. The bathroom was incredibly clean. Every surface had been thoroughly wiped, and nothing seemed out of place. There was a photo development tray lying on the floor. Some leftover negatives were sticking out, but they were pretty blurry. I thought I saw what looked like treetops. Alright. The front door was blocked by a pile of furniture. I knew I had to find another way out. How about going out that window? Let's just throw the pot through the window and go that way. The door was taped up and it seemed to be stuck. By the smell, I guess it led to the kitchen. Damn door was locked, but it didn't look like there was a keyhole. Maybe I could find another way to open it. A thin gray mouse was stuck in a trap. It looked frantic but exhausted. Did I free it? Yes, let's free the mouse. A collection of rusty tools. These looked like they'd seen a lot of use and were caked in a damp-smelling dirt. Why weren't they in a shed? Maybe they got them out of the shed to bury the body? I found a picture of a couple. It looked like it had been moved a lot. There seemed to be a switch behind it. Did I push the switch? Yes. It depressed smoothly into the wall. I heard a faraway click somewhere. Alright, I think that would be downstairs now? Let's go back downstairs. That somehow untaped it? Alright, I'll take it. There were sheets of paper all over the kitchen table. It looked like a series of names were written down, but they were too smudged to read. I could only make out a few of the notes. Keycard, Ocker. Last one, I promise. It didn't make much sense at that time. Oh, there's the mouse. The smell of old dishes and moldy food was dizzying. The switch in the wall appeared to have unlocked the door. The box looked heavy, but there were marks on the floor. It had obviously been moved before. Maybe I had found a way out. I must have moved it, right? I heaved the box forward, and it finally gave. There was a ladder going underground where the box was. A dank smell rose from the passage. Did I climb down the ladder? Yes. My leg hurt like hell as I climbed down that ladder. The tunnel below was even darker, and the smell wasn't getting any better. But I had to get out of there and find my way home. Footprints in the dirt looked like more than one kind, and a lot of traffic. It was an old map of the town. Places all over were marked, the industrial area near the river, various houses, and even the small forest near our neighborhood. Newspaper clippings from the local paper. They were all about murders in town over the last 5 years. Wait. There were photos. Photos of our house. What the hell was that about? Maybe I should have looked around more, tried to find some kind of information. A work table covered in papers, dirt, and a handgun. I hated guns. I didn't take it, did I? Yeah, we're going to take the handgun. I tucked the small handgun into my pocket. Its weight was somehow reassuring. It was so dark down there, and the air smelled stale and putrid. I couldn't believe what I saw. What was this place? Some kind of homemade rack slung together with poorly cut wood and rope. It was caked with old blood. Somebody didn't actually use that, did they? Crudely made shelves. They looked like they were holding cans of some kind of corrosive. The labels were worn and slick, but I could still see the warnings. It looked like a cage. It was small, but there was something coating the bottom. Something wet. Some kind of old boxes. They looked like they were years old. Wait a minute. These boxes had old clothes in them. Clothes I remembered throwing out after Rachel and I moved to town. What the hell were they doing here? If I was scared before, I was terrified now. Why were there photos of our house there? And these clothes? Was that why I was there? I checked my back pocket and realized my wallet was missing. Did I come to that house, or did somebody bring me? I remember noticing the broken ladder. I had to be careful. Ooh. There was a rope hanging there. I wasn't sure how sturdy it was. Did I take it? Maybe the rope would make that broken ladder easier to descend. Okay, we got skeletons through the wall. The rope I found would have let me climb down the broken ladder safely. Did I climb down? Yes. I could hear a faint hum, and the smell from before started to get worse. A bunch of old newspapers, wheat pasted together. A message had been hastily smeared on it. Keep out! Danger due to cave-in. I wanted nothing more than to get out of there. I could still feel a faint impression of the rope I had slid down as I pressed against the heavy metal door. It was probably for the best that I hadn't jumped. The ache in my leg was bad enough as it was. If I could have, though, I would have run straight out of those awful tunnels. Who would keep such a place? At least, I thought, I had found that old handgun. It seemed to work, and from the smell of it, it had been used already. I kept the gun in my pocket. It seemed a familiar weight there. Makes me wonder if the handgun was the murder weapon. There was dirt on the ground. It looked wet, and there was grass smeared within it. I could hear a faint trickling sound like water. What was that? An exit. There was a rusty ladder sunk into the water, which smelled disgusting. I knew I couldn't climb down that. Maybe I could find a way to drain the putrid water. A kitchen knife covered in drying blood. Thinking about it made me sick. I didn't even want to touch it. Did I take the knife? I slipped the knife in my boot since I had the gun in my pocket. Did I really need all this? The door was locked. There was a musty smell from inside. I thought I could turn this water valve to shut off its flow. Did I turn it? I wasn't sure, but I thought it was some kind of regulator. I had no idea how it worked. I thought I could turn this water valve to shut off its flow. Did I turn it? I thought I could turn off this water valve to shut off its flow. Did I turn it? Alright, how many more times I gotta read this? I thought I could turn off this water valve to shut off its flow. Did I turn it? Nope, that didn't work. Disgusting! It was a mess of filthy garbage bags. There were rips and tears in most of the bags. What looked like an old videotape was sticking out. Did I take the tape? I wasn't sure what I hoped to discover with the tape, but I took it anyway. Looked like I turned off the water flow in this valve. This valve was still active. Did I turn it again? The valve was still active. Did I turn it again? Jeez, how many times did I have to turn it? Okay, so those two are off. Let's go check the other one. I thought I could turn this water valve to shut off its flow. Did I turn it? The valve was still active. Did I turn it again? Alright, that sounds like it's stopped now. Is this one actually off? Looked like I turned off the water flow in this valve. Through the dust I could see handprints from previous use, probably from whoever worked in the sewers. Hey, we can go down now. Looked like the water drained out of the grate through the wall. There was a small metal key left floating in the shallow pool of rancid water. I pocketed the small key, but it was so odd-shaped, I had no idea what it might open. The safety poster had definitely seen better days. How old was that facility? The door was locked. I could see a faint light within. I found another dead body, a sewer worker. By the wounds all over his face and bloody, I figured he'd been stabbed repeatedly. There was a keyring sticking out of the man's pocket. Did I take it? I thought about the knife I had found with some disgust as I carefully picked the keys from his pocket. I was almost worried he was going to grab me. I was feeling even more sick from seeing another dead man. I didn't want to get any more blood on my clothes. There was a hint of fresh air here. I must have been near an exit. But I wondered, what did that key I found on the sewer worker do? And what was on the videotape I found? I made my way up the ladder as best I could on my leg. Would I really need that gun or the knife before the end? I wondered what was on that VHS tape I found, or in that locked room. Should I have gone back to check? My head was buzzing with questions and tired thoughts as I ascended the ladder. Suddenly, as I lifted the heavy lid above me, I could smell fresh, old pine trees. Oh, we're outside. Oh, I can't reach that ladder. Or can I? An old ladder leading up to an ancient water tower. The ladder needed to be extended so I could climb it. Did I extend the ladder? I popped the latch and brought the ladder down. I'll go up there after. I tried the little key I had fished out of the murky puddle in the sewers. It fit, and I heaved open the rusty door. The wind was picking up a bit. The night air had become strangely chilly. Let's go up that ladder before we move ahead. I feel like I should go up that ladder. Okay, let's go back. In a patch of smeared dirt and grass, there was a beat-up old wallet. I thought it was mine. I slid the filthy wallet into my back pocket. I noticed it didn't contain any kind of gun permit. In fact, it didn't contain any cards or ID of any kind. I thought I should recover my credit card and driver's license at least. From the railing I could see over the woods and down to the entrance to the sewers. Had I come through there before? If I did, someone definitely could have seen me. The old train station was quiet as a tomb. The only sound was that of an increasing wind buffeting the decrepit structure. The old train route map was still held in glass and was better preserved than some of the other parts of the old station. As I studied it, I recalled the makeshift map that hung in those dank tunnels I had explored. It had marked some of the areas around here. The old train was ripped open, and hanging from a shred of metal, as well as the broken fence, was a dark-stained patch of cloth. It looked synthetic, like some kind of outerwear. Inside the train shell I could see a few faint impacts like wounds. Could they have been bullet marks? Was somebody shot there? The ground was well worn, and I couldn't really make anything out. I realized I was touching the gun I had found as I thought. There was an old ticket booth that smelled of dust and disuse. Inside it was littered with notes and old papers. I saw some faded old ticket receipts and some notes that looked a bit newer. They were scribbled on with a ballpoint pen. I hadn't seen anything like that, though, but it seemed misplaced among the older records and ledgers. This must have been the entrance to the forest that was mentioned on the map I had seen. Whoever was poking around in those tunnels underneath that man's house had scribbled notes on this place, but couldn't make them out. Here the sign pointed out various campsites and walking paths within the woods. It mentioned a river and maybe a washroom, but the rest was too faded to see clearly. Trampled into the dirt and grass was a plastic card of some kind. I brushed it off and was surprised to see it was my credit card. I wasn't sure if it was still usable, but it was mine. Did I take back my credit card? I pocketed the credit card. Hopefully I could find my driver's license too. There were some personal effects shoved back into the rock. Wait, there was a notebook there too. Did I read it? Inside the cheap dollar store notebook was page after worn page of names and lists. None of it made much sense. The newest page contained several names. Heather, Olivia, Ashley, Cheryl, Iris, Daphne, Holly, Rose, Rachel. Rachel! Her name was the last on the list, and it had a mark beside it in blue ink. The names Daphne and Olivia had been crossed out in the same blue ink. Cheryl, Heather, and Rose had also been crossed out, but those marks looked older and more faded. A few embers still burned within the fire pit. Who was camping here? Was it... One of the two folding camping chairs was knocked over, and there was beer spilled everywhere. Where did the campers run off to in such a hurry? There was a cheap two-person dome tent. Through the screen on the front I could see 2 sleeping bags, backpacks, and a small cooler. Is that a beehive? The sign was the same as the first one I had seen. This must have been the exit to the other side of the woods. I had finally found the exit. Once I left, I knew I never wanted to return there. Through the dense trees, I could finally start to see some light. I must have been at the edge of the forest, though I wasn't sure where the path ahead of me would lead. I could almost feel the cryptic notebook in my pocket as I tried to think about what it could mean. And where were the campers who had abandoned their campsite? Would I meet them too? Though the path ahead of me was still less dense, I still felt guarded and weary. Who knew what was ahead? As I stepped through the gate, I suddenly recognized the auto parts factory where I had worked as a machinist for all those years. The plant had closed almost 3 years ago now. Times were better then. I thought I could hear a faint rustling behind me. Maybe it was just the wind. Oh. I found the body of a security guard. Just doing his job, no doubt. His face was covered with blood from some kind of head wound. I wondered, was this flashlight his? Dug into the ground was a cracked old watch. First my wallet, and now this? Did I retrieve my watch? The watch was useless, but I put it on my wrist anyway. One of those lockers hung open. Its contents were tossed around like someone had been looking for something. The door was locked shut and there was a little electronic box under the handle. A sign was pasted to the front that said, "Danger, closed for repairs." There was a large power box with 5 lights on it. Cables burst out of the box, snaking off to the other parts of the factory. The metal was starting to wear, and cobwebs had collected on the corners. The box wasn't receiving power. The door was locked tight. It seemed to be connected to the power box beside it. Every part of this plant smelled old and rotted. I noticed the old bulletin board on the wall. The board contained yellowed clippings of newspaper cartoons and notices. There were notes to and from the guys that worked here. One of them was to Norman, who was one of the older guys on the line. Our old break table, the layer of old dust and grime only made seeing this sting more. A power panel. Looked like it was shut off. Did I push the switch? The open locker was stuffed with dirty work clothes and old boots. There was a photo of a woman taped to the inside, but it was scratched out and the face was unrecognizable. A power panel. Looked like it was shut off. Did I push the switch? Oh, I think we've got power now. It was shut tight. There was a rusty-looking card slot on the side. The power panel still wasn't working. Did I try to fix it again? Alright, they're both green now. Oh, so we're still missing 3. Okay, gotta go back up. Must be up on the 3rd floor. The door had been hastily boarded up. This was Norman's locker. The door was dented like someone had punched it. I don't remember him doing that when we worked here. Another panel that I hoped could help me get the power back on. Did I push the switch? A utility shelf crammed with mismatched tools and items. There was a claw hammer on the shelf. Did I take the hammer? As I took the hammer, I noticed it wasn't as dusty as the rest of the tools on the shelf. Great, so it was probably used to kill somebody else. The locker was a complete mess. Hidden at the bottom, though, was a magnetic card. Did I take the card? I slipped the keycard into my pocket. Another panel that I hoped could help me get the power back on. Did I push the switch? Power panel still wasn't working. Did I try it again? The power panel still wasn't working. Did I try it again? Another panel that I hoped could help me get the power back on. Did I push the switch? The power panel still wasn't working. Did I try it again? Alright, that's all 5 I think I got on now. With the power box working again, the door was unlocked. Did I go through? I pushed the handle and stepped through the door. A rack of old flashlights hung on the wall. One of them was missing. I stopped noticing the dull ache in my leg when a terrible sensation wormed its way down my spine. Even in the cool night air, everything felt too close. I never felt alone or unmolested. I tried to tell myself it was just the sight of that dead guard that was throwing me off. The poor bastard looked like he had been done while on a patrol. Was the flashlight I carried his? How did I come to possess it then? As I looked around the wet yard, the light seemed less a blessing and more of a mysterious omen. I had to keep moving though. I had to find Rachel. A rescue truck had careened off the road and into the guardrail. Its front was crushed and its windows had been smashed. Judging by the rust, it had been there a while. The garbage bin was a disgusting mess of rotten food and slick black bags. I saw a thin greenish corner poking out from one of the bags. It was my driver's license. It looked damaged. Did I take it back? I cleaned the card off as best I could. It looked pretty beat up. I was amazed to have found my credit card, and now this. I tucked the card into my wallet, next to my credit card. Sounded like it was going to start raining again. I had entered Norman's place. This was the back of the store that he ran. It was oddly quiet, except for the faint sound of a television. What the hell? One of Rachel's old autumn coats hung on a rack. That was Norman's bedroom, wasn't it? What was this doing here? A speck of something dark and wet stained one of the sleeves. Inside the cabinet was a small but impressive collection of hunting rifles, shotguns, and even a few items I didn't think were legal here. One of the slots on the rack was empty. The gun I had found seemed to match the others there. If the handgun was Norman's, what the hell was he doing with it? The gun would fit there. Did I place it back in the cabinet? Sure. I carefully pushed the piece back in its place and felt a great burden lifted. This TV still flickered some indecipherable channel. Alright, I want to turn it off because that's annoying. I couldn't make out what was on the screen, but that glow just gave me the chills. Uh-oh. Oh no. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Norman, my coworker, and one of the few friends I had in this town lay dead beside his armchair. His face and shirt were covered in blood. It looked like he'd been shot trying to get up. His eyes were wide with shock, though they were already drying. Norman, what was Rachel doing here? Why did you have her coat? Norman, maybe you deserve better. You probably did. Did I close his eyes? I closed his eyelids down, shuddering as I did so. I wasn't sure if I wanted to give him peace, or if I just couldn't stand to think anymore about what was going on. I guess this was Norman's kitchen table. He kept it clean enough, but there were water rings from 2 cups still there in the wood. The kitchen trash bin smelled fresh. I didn't dig through that mess, did I? I found a hairpin amongst the rotting food and trash and pocketed it. I used the hairpin to pick the lock. The hairpin snapped in half, so I threw it away. The general store was small, but it was clean. It had the usual things: postcards, snacks, magazines, and canned goods. I never went there much. Rachel usually stopped by after work if we needed anything. The register was mostly empty, and a fat stack of travel magazines sat beside it. The icebox seemed to be unplugged. It must have been off for a while. Most of its contents were half melted. There were various postcards from the area, especially from the tourist traps. One of the postcards showed an old black and white photo of the water tower. It looked to be in much better shape then. Norman was dead, but I had no idea why. Was he involved in all this somehow? Or was he just another victim? The gun I had found only seemed to complicate matters. It was such a relief to finally be rid of it. Home wasn't far off now. Even though the rain was relentless, I had to keep going. It was locked. This wasn't the right gate. The gate was locked tight. This wasn't my house. The gate was locked tight. This wasn't my house. The neighborhood's local postbox. A letter was sticking out as if someone hadn't pushed it all the way in. I knew it wasn't right, but did I look at the letter? There was no return address, but the envelope was addressed to Norman. Carefully, I tore it open and looked at the letter inside. It read, "Stay away, she's mine." That was it. No signature, no other information. I had the wrong gate. This one was locked. I don't know. I'm thinking that I'm like the one who killed everyone. I had entered our backyard. The rain gave me a terrible sense of foreboding, and it chilled me through my clothes. I was expectant, but also afraid. I held my breath as I approached our back door. I was terrified to step inside. The house was painfully quiet. The only sound was my own breathing, ragged and strained. I flicked the light switch by the door. The power was off. I remembered having breakfast here on this very table. Was that yesterday or sometime before? The door to the basement. It was locked. Where had I put that damn key? The door was stuck shut. There was an old-fashioned keyhole underneath the handle. I had found the last missing piece from my wallet. The old photo of Rachel and I stared back at me, reminding me of better times. It didn't make me feel terribly uncomfortable. Did I keep it anyway? I replaced the photo in my wallet, feeling like I had got part of my life back. Still, the image made me uneasy. Why had I thrown it away? Probably because she was cheating on you. Our television. I had purchased it before I knew I was going to lose my job. I felt pretty guilty about it afterward, but by then it was too late. Rachel was pretty angry about that, I realized. Our hallway mirror had been smashed, its pieces scattered around the floor. Our sink, which needed to be replaced. One of the taps always stuck, but I hadn't got around to fixing it yet. We were lucky enough to get a house with one of those wonderful old claw-footed bathtubs. My laptop had been left on and only had a tiny bit of power left. On the screen was a website about the old water tower. There was a key in the top of the drawer on my desk. Did I take it? I pocketed the key. I unlocked the basement door. There were old Christmas decorations in the box. The garbage bags were stuffed with old paint cans and supplies. There was a dirty old key there. Did I take it? I took the small key and tried to remember what it unlocked. There were old clothes, tools, and other things we obviously hadn't thrown out yet. I had put up this divider wall last summer so we could create a separate room in the basement. I hadn't finished it yet, so the door was stuck, and the drywall was poorly installed. I might have been able to break through if I found something heavy enough. There was a small pile of mail on the floor in front of the mail slot. How long had I been away? Why hadn't Rachel picked this up yet? Most of the contents were bills. There was a credit card bill there. Did I open it? I ripped the bill open and read it. To my surprise, it said something about canceling my credit card due to non-payment. What the hell? The front door was locked from inside. I couldn't go out though. I needed to see if Rachel was here. That old house was charming for sure, but it wasn't always easy. It seemed impractical at times, but it was part of what made that house home. Rachel and I had shared this bookcase. Her books were mostly about travel. Mine were about the area and its history. I remembered going into a local shop after we moved. There was a suitcase on the bed. It was Rachel's. I remembered it from that trip we took out west. Did I open the suitcase? I wasn't sure what to make out of the suitcase's contents. Inside were a few days' worth of clothes, some toiletries, and a train ticket. Where was she planning to go? grimy key I had found in the basement unlocked the door. It looked like the room had been tossed around. The furniture was a mess. Did somebody break in here? There was an old crowbar on the floor. Did I need to take the crowbar? I lifted the heavy crowbar. I appreciated its weight. Did I break through the wall with the crowbar? Yes. With a heave, I swung the crowbar at the wall. I smashed a hole large enough to step through. As I stepped through the broken wall, my breath caught in my throat. This was it. Was Rachel down here? Was she okay? A filthy-looking pile of rags had been dumped into the corner. The stench of them was awful and made my eyes water. I was terrified to even touch the pile, to see what lay within, but I knew I had to. I had come this far. After all this searching, after all that I had seen, when I looked within the rags, did I finally find my Rachel. Oh no. My hands trembled as I pulled back the layers of cloth. There, at the center, under all that dirt and mess, was my beloved, my Rachel. Her arms were bruised all over and slashed repeatedly, and even through all that sickening blood, it was obvious she had been stabbed to death. The knife I had carried all this way suddenly seemed like a poison. What had happened, Rachel? Who did this to you? I thought about all I had seen, and wondered if any of it could help me figure out who had done this. And when I couldn't stay there any longer, I stepped away on shaky legs and made my way back upstairs. Reluctantly, exhausted from my journey, I could no longer resist the urge to close my eyes. I couldn't leave, not until I had thought about this some more. I needed answers. The mail still sat there, heaped on the floor. How long had Rachel been lying in the basement? I couldn't go back down. Not until I'd gone over everything. I needed to make sure I was perfectly clear. There would be no more dinners here, no more chit-chat over breakfast, at least not for us. I must have locked the door. There was no reason to return back to the yard anyway. The names in that notebook I had found in the forest still haunted me. Heather, Olivia, Ashley, Cheryl, Iris, Daphne, Holly, Rose, Rachel. I had no idea what they meant. It was the letter I had taken from the postbox. Who had it out for Norman? Who sent him that letter? It must have been someone from the neighborhood, or at least somebody wanted it to look that way. I wasn't sure what to think. Did Norman? Did he murder Rachel? No, I don't think he did. No way, Norman had ended up dead himself. Whoever sent that threatening letter must have got to him. But who the hell was that? I still had no idea what was on that tape I found in the garbage. If only I had found a way to watch it. From now on, I'd have no one to get angry with me for stupid things like buying this TV. Within the few broken pieces that remained of that mirror, I could see my face had grown pale and weak. I couldn't bear to look again. It was like I didn't actually expect a reflection. I felt empty and drained. The reflection in that grimy glass was only a shadow, a whisper. I still loved the old-time charm of that claw-footed bathtub, though it seemed like cold comfort then. It was the keycard I found at the bottom of that factory locker. I never did bother to use it. Someone had been going through those lockers and poking around the plant. Still, it didn't quite add up. Was I the only one who had been going back to the factory? I guess it could have been me, but what would I have been doing there? The laptop had finally run out of power. It was my wallet, with its contents intact. Either I dropped that stuff, or somebody else did. Maybe I was sleepwalking again, or maybe somebody stole it from me. Norman's store, that forest, the water tower? Was I at all those places before? I didn't see how it could have happened any other way. I must have been the one to lose my wallet and its contents. But what does that mean? Maybe I would use some of Rachel's travel books and find some places to go. The old VCR had long since broken down, and I'd never bothered to replace it. Damn this town. We only wanted a nice place to settle down, not this madness. Why was Rachel's name on that list? Was somebody out to get her? It seemed like I had seen all there was. Maybe, I thought, I was ready to go back to the basement. Maybe there wouldn't be anything for me to find, but I had to take a last look. If I was guilty, I could take this to a warm, safe place and do something about it. Did I pick up the knife? I took the knife and kept it firmly in my hand. Now that I stood there, I realized I couldn't go back into that room again. I had already seen too much. I knew I needed to escape that nightmare. What about the knife I still carried? I wondered, even if I left, would it really be over? So, did I leave that house forever? Living in this town hadn't been easy. The plant had helped in some way to stay grounded. It kept me in line, gave me something to do, and helped me to get away from my past. When the factory closed, everything changed. I guess that was when I had started sleepwalking, disappearing for hours at a time. I had MRIs and piles of doctor's reports, but nothing seemed to help, not even drinking. But I swear I had tried to give it up. I know it. The sleepwalking never really went away, though. But but I know Rachel had tried. I know she had tried to be there for me even when everything was falling apart. This night had unearthed terrible truths, but I knew it was a final act of a long-standing horror I'd been living. Waking up in that house tonight was the final cruelty. I wish I had remained unconscious in that room forever. Even the man I had found in that old place was a mystery. Why he was dead or who had done it to him was not something I could even begin to understand. Or why, for that matter, I was in that damn room in the first place. Now that I thought of it, those sewers were a terrible mystery. What had happened there? I was lucky, in my way, to even find my way out of there. But I never did find out what was on that tape that I now kept. What might it have shown me? I had found the contents of my wallet scattered throughout town. Why the hell had I been out there? Had my sleepwalking gone to some new extreme? The thought that I couldn't account for my whereabouts, but I knew that I had been in that forest, and even Norman's place, well, it was terrifying. I didn't know what that meant, but at least I had recovered my things. Hopefully, I thought that would cover my tracks so I wouldn't be blamed for all of this. Making my own way through that awful forest had been terrifying and confusing, but finding that book was chilling. What did that list of names mean, and why was Rachel's on it? It seemed there was a connection I wasn't quite seeing. Had I missed something important? My sleepwalking had obviously been a problem lately, but it was still difficult to admit that I was the only one who had been going back to the factory. The episodes had gotten worse, but oh no, I hoped I wasn't the one responsible for that guard. After the factory, I thought I might find some solace if I could just get to Norman's store. But all I had found were more horrors and more questions. Now that I really consider it, that's when I should have seen it coming. Damn, Norman. How did you get mixed up in all this? I know you weren't a perfect man, none of us are, but you didn't deserve this. Maybe whoever had done you in was responsible for the other murders that happened in that town. At the very least, I was convinced you and Rachel were killed by the same person. I sincerely hoped that you would find some peace, my friend. I knew I never would. When I had marched through the rain towards home, I desperately clung to the hope that this would end. And I guess in a way it did, but how could I have known how hopeless it all was? I had started to feel as disoriented as when I sleepwalked. To think of it now, our house used to feel so lively, so warm. But coming into the kitchen, I felt only a cold, empty tension. Every terrible thought I had up to that point was suddenly a possibility. But nothing could have prepared me. My wife, dead, ruined, discarded. Rachel's death was a terrible mystery to me, one that would haunt me forever, unless I did something about it. For what solace can a man take in the death of his wife? What comfort can he be offered? Rachel had been taken from me, and I might never know why. As I swung open the door and stepped into the air, I caught the scent of wet grass and fog. Rachel, my beautiful wife. Just the thought of her again, cold and inert, shook me from head to toe. What would I do now? Who could I turn to? It would only be a matter of time before the police got involved, before the neighbors knew. The front lawn was soft and giving beneath my feet, and I couldn't shake the urge that I shouldn't stand there, but rather that I should run. So, I guess that's how it ends. I had a feeling early on that my character was responsible for those murders, but I still would have liked some actual concrete answers in the end. Most of the game felt pretty uneventful, and I'm left with more questions than answers, which is not very satisfying in terms of story. Oh well, I hope you guys still enjoyed it. Thanks again to Monkey Fusion, and have a wonderful day.